Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I want to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered here today on the traditional unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with you in our nation's capital to officially launch this year's Emergency Preparedness Week. I'm joined by my Parliamentary Secretary, Anthony Housefather, and by partners from across our Humanitarian Workforce Program, Conrad Sauvé from the Canadian Red Cross, Erik Rowell of St. John Ambulance, Mischa Kaplan from Team Rubicon, Rick Zelinsky from the Salvation Army, and a representative from Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada, or SARVAC. To each of you, thank you so much. Your organizations show up when Canadians need it the most. And it goes without saying, the world has changed, and natural disasters and other emergency situations are more frequent, more severe, and of course more costly. And we've already seen this reality across the nation with wildfires and floods and extreme weather affecting communities from coast to coast to coast. That's why our government is focused on what we can control. And that means being better prepared, strengthening our response capacity, and building more resilient communities. Emergency management doesn't start when a disaster hits. It starts long before, with preparation and planning, and of course, partnership. So today marks the beginning of a very important week, Emergency Preparedness Week 2026. This year's theme is Be Prepared, Know Your Risks. And it's really a simple call to action, but its importance cannot be overstated. Because preparation saves lives. It can protect your families, your homes, and it helps impacted communities recover more quickly. So today's announcement is an important step in strengthening our collective preparedness. And I'm proud to announce a $108 million investment to renew the Humanitarian Workforce Program. And that supports the critical work of the partner organizations that are here on stage with me today. So this program ensures that Canada has a trained civilian workforce ready to support provinces and territories and Indigenous communities when emergencies stretch local capacity. The organizations here today are the backbone of that effort. They deliver everything from medical care to logistics and on-the-ground support when it matters most. I cannot emphasize how much of a difference that makes. And in the past month alone, we've really seen the impact of that firsthand with Team Rubicon and the Canadian Red Cross. They were deployed, of course, to Peguis First Nation in Manitoba to support flood mitigation efforts such as sandbagging. I also want to recognize Canada's search and rescue volunteers. Across the country, more than 9,000 volunteers stand ready to respond, often in the middle of the night, in difficult conditions to help people in distress. That's why I'm also announcing $1.93 million in funding for SARVAC through the Search and Rescue New Initiatives Fund, so that search and rescue volunteers have the tools and the training that they need to do their work safely and effectively. As we face spring flooding and wildfire season, our readiness matters more than ever. Last year was one of the most active wildfire seasons on record, and wildfire risk remains high in many parts of the country for this season. So taken together, these investments are about making sure that communities have the support they need before, after, and during emergencies. Keeping people safe is a fundamental and basic responsibility of all levels of government. So let me conclude by saying this. Emergency Preparedness Week is a reminder that this work does not belong to governments alone. It's a shared responsibility across all orders of government, Indigenous partners, first responders, and every single Canadian. And each of us has a role to play. So this week, I encourage Canadians to take 3 simple steps. Know the risks in your own community, make a plan with your family, and build an emergency kit that can last at least 72 hours. So these are small steps, but they do make a real difference. They make a difference when it counts. By preparing today, we can reduce risks tomorrow and build a stronger, more resilient Canada. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. And I'll turn things over now to Parliamentary Secretary Housefather. Anthony.
Thank you so much, Minister Olszewski. Bonjour tout le monde. Je vais commencer par reconnaître que nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui sur le territoire traditionnel non cédé de peuple algonquin-anishinaabe. C'est un plaisir d'être ici, dans la capitale nationale, pour lancer officiellement la Semaine de la sécurité civile 2026. C'est un grand honneur d'être ici avec ma ministre Eleanor Olszewski, ainsi que de partenaires issus de tous nos programmes de la main-d'œuvre humanitaire, Conrad Sauvé de la Croix-Rouge canadienne, Erik Rowell de l'Ambulance Saint-Jean, Mischa Kaplan de l'équipe Rubicon, Rick Zelinsky de l'Armée du Salut, et de Guy de l'Association canadienne des volontaires en recherche et sauvetage, où je vais référer ça à SARVAC. À chacun d'entre vous, merci. Vos organisations sont présentes quand les Canadiens en ont le plus besoin. Le monde a changé. Les catastrophes naturelles et autres situations d'urgence deviennent plus fréquentes, plus graves et plus coûteuses. Et nous constatons déjà cette réalité avec les feux de forêt, les inondations et les conditions météorologiques extrêmes affectant nos communautés à travers le pays. C'est pourquoi notre gouvernement se concentre sur ce que nous pouvons contrôler, être mieux préparés, renforcer notre capacité de réponse et construire des communautés plus résilientes. Aujourd'hui marque le début d'une semaine importante, la Semaine de la sécurité civile 2026. Le thème de cette année, « Soyez prêts, connaissez vos risques », est un simple appel à l'action, mais son importance ne peut être surestimée. Parce que être préparé sauve des vies. Elle peut protéger vos familles, vos foyers et aide les communautés touchées à se réétablir plus rapidement. À cette fin, l'annonce aujourd'hui est une étape importante pour renforcer notre préparation collective et nous sommes fiers d'annoncer un investissement de 108 millions de dollars pour renouveler le programme de la main-d'œuvre humanitaire qui soutient le travail crucial des organisations partenaires présentes avec nous aujourd'hui. Ce programme garantit que le Canada dispose d'une main-d'œuvre civile formée, prête à soutenir les provinces, territoires et les communautés autochtones lorsque les situations d'urgence mettent à rude épreuve la capacité locale. Les organisations présentes aujourd'hui sont la colonne vertébrale de cet effort, fournissant des soins médicaux, de soutien logistique et sur le terrain quand cela compte la plus. Rien que le mois dernier, nous avons vu cet impact de première main avec l'équipe Rubicon et la Croix-Rouge canadienne déployée à la Première Nation Peguis au Manitoba pour soutenir les efforts de lutte contre les inondations comme le déploiement du sable. Mais je tiens aussi à reconnaître les bénévoles canadiens de recherche et sauvetage. À travers le pays, plus de 9000 bénévoles sont prêts à intervenir, souvent au milieu de la nuit, dans des conditions difficiles, pour aider les personnes en détresse. C'est pourquoi on annonce également un financement de 1,93 million de dollars pour SARVAC via le Fonds des nouvelles initiatives de recherche et de sauvetage, afin que les bénévoles de recherche et sauvetage disposent des outils, de la formation et du soutien nécessaires pour accompagner leur travail en toute sécurité et efficacité. Alors que nous faisons face aux inondations printanières et que nous entrons dans la saison des feux de forêt, notre préparation compte plus que jamais. L'année dernière a été l'une des saisons d'incendie de forêt les plus actives jamais enregistrées, et le risque d'incendie reste élevé dans de nombreuses régions du pays. Permettez-moi de conclure par ceci. La Semaine de la sécurité civile rappelle que ce travail ne revient pas uniquement au gouvernement. C'est une responsabilité partagée entre tous les ordres du gouvernement, les partenaires autochtones, les premiers intervenants et chaque Canadien et Canadienne. Et chacun de nous a un rôle à jouer. Cette semaine, j'encourage les Canadiens à prendre 3 mesures simples. Connaissez les risques dans votre communauté, faites un plan avec votre famille, construisez une trousse d'urgence qui peut durer au moins 72 heures. Cela fait une réelle différence quand cela compte. Et nous préparons aujourd'hui, nous pouvons réduire les risques demain et bâtir un Canada plus fort et plus résilient. Merci. And next, I will call upon Conrad Sauvé, President and CEO of the Canadian Red Cross.
Bonjour, welcome, thank you. Secretary Housefather, Minister Olszewski. Yesterday marked 10 years since the wildfires tore through Fort McMurray, forcing the evacuation of the entire community. The scope and scale of that response was unlike anything we had seen before. It marked a significant turning point for the Canadian Red Cross in our domestic operations. Since then, there's been a continual need to increase our operations and our support to Canadians as emergencies become more severe, more complex, and more frequent. The COVID-19 response saw the Red Cross ramp up our capacity, recruiting thousands of new personnel. We then responded to the widespread damage caused by Hurricane Fiona in 2022 and the Jasper wildfires in 2024. Last summer, as the Minister and Parliamentary Secretary mentioned, wildfire season was the largest domestic operation in modern Canadian Red Cross history, requiring a sustained response lasting more than 4 months across multiple provinces and territories. One reality has become clear: Canada's emergency risk environment has permanently changed. Today's announcement is an important step towards ensuring Canada is ready for what comes next. And it's vital that we have capacity in place before emergencies occur. Une évidence s'est imposée dans les dernières années. Le paysage des risques et des urgences au Canada a profondément changé. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui marque une étape importante dans le renforcement du niveau de préparation au pays. Pour parer à toute éventualité, il est essentiel de mettre en place des capacités d'intervention solides, et ce, avant que les situations d'urgence ne surviennent. Les urgences font désormais partie de notre réalité, et la Croix-Rouge sera là pour venir en aide aux Canadiennes et aux Canadiens. The funding announcements today will allow us to maintain our existing response capacity, the peoples, the systems, training, and equipment that allow us to begin within hours, not days. In this area of continuous crisis, our readiness to response is more critical than ever before. Thank you to our federal government for their commitment towards ensuring we're ready to assist Canadians wherever and whenever needed. Je remercie le gouvernement fédéral de son engagement et de sa volonté à nous donner les moyens d'agir en tout lieu et en tout temps lorsque nos concitoyens ont besoin d'aide. Merci. Thank you.
Good morning. At the start of Emergency Preparedness Week, I want to say thank you to the countless number of volunteers who work tirelessly to support survivors of disasters in Canada. As weather events increase, so does uncertainty for Canadians, and community needs require greater collaboration from organizations such as our partners in the humanitarian workforce. Together, we bring an extensive amount of expertise to bear upon a disaster and to support communities across this nation from sea to sea to sea. When this team shows up, people can expect to find a safe place to rest, a listening ear, a hot meal, a good cup of coffee, people wearing flannel to flex muscle and pitch in wherever help is needed, and even a four-legged friend will show up to bring comfort. Our ability to respond is in direct correlation to the support we have received from public safety through the Humanitarian Workforce. And over the past 4 years, the Salvation Army has built capacity to respond with over 5,000 volunteers. Minister Olszewski, thank you for this investment through the Humanitarian Workforce Program. This support reflects what we see every day in communities across the country, that we are stronger when we work together. It ensures Canadians will be met with compassionate care and practical assistance and building a more resilient nation, one where no one stands alone in the face of disaster. Thank you and God bless you. And in the name of unity, the Salvation Army says, go Habs.
Madame la ministre, au nom de Janelle Comtesse, présidente de l'Association canadienne des volontaires en recherche et sauvetage, sous l'acronyme SARVAC, et au nom de tous nos bénévoles répartis à travers le pays, je tiens à vous remercier sincèrement ainsi que votre gouvernement pour le renouvellement du financement du programme de main-d'œuvre humanitaire. Cet engagement renforce la préparation et la capacité d'intervention lors des catastrophes partout au pays. SARVAC regroupe plus de 9000 bénévoles en recherche et sauvetage présents dans les communautés urbaines, rurales, autochtones et éloignées. Nous sommes fiers de poursuivre ce partenariat avec le gouvernement et travailler de concert avec les autres ONG et nos partenaires publics pour offrir une réponse plus coordonnée, inclusive et résiliente. Grâce à cet appui, nos bénévoles pourront continuer à servir les Canadiennes et les Canadiens là où les besoins sont les plus urgents. Nous aimerions souligner pour tout le travail qui a été accompli dans le cadre du programme de main-d'œuvre humanitaire dans les années passées, auquel SARVAC collabore avec tous les niveaux de gouvernement afin de compléter l'état de préparation, d'accroître la capacité d'intervention face aux situations d'urgence actuelles et émergentes. Au cours des dernières années, nos interventions sur le terrain ont clairement mis en évidence le rôle essentiel de l'engagement bénévole en matière de réponse aux sinistres. Je tiens aussi à souligner et à exprimer ma reconnaissance pour le support financier que SARVAC reçoit afin de développer en partenariat avec les communautés autochtones et éloignées un cadre de prévention en recherche et sauvetage adapté à leur culture et à leur réalité et dans le but d'établir une norme canine, une norme nationale pour les équipes canines. Merci.
Good morning. Thank you, Minister and Parliamentary Secretary, for the invitation, and what a privilege it is to be here during Emergency Preparedness Week. For more than 140 years, St. John Ambulance has supported the health and well-being of communities across Canada through training, products, and community-based services. Today, that mission is delivered through a national focus on preparedness and response, including first aid, mental health, and health and safety training, supported by more than 20 emergency response units across the country. With over 400 staff, 10,000 volunteers, and a presence in more than 300 communities, we are deeply embedded in communities nationwide and ready to respond when emergencies occur. We recognize that crises go beyond physical harm, which is why our response includes both medical care and support for emotional and mental well-being. This renewed investment from Public Safety Canada strengthens Canada's emergency response ecosystem and significantly enhances our capacity to respond at scale. It improves deployment speed, increases response frequency, and expands our capacity to remain in communities for as long as they need. When disasters strike, evacuation centers open, and communities are at their most vulnerable, St. John Ambulance is there, along with our partners, delivering essential medical care and critical psychosocial support. Thank you, Public Safety Canada and our NGO partners for this continued collaboration and to our volunteers and staff whose dedication makes this work possible every day.
Good morning. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Mischa Kaplan of Team Rubicon Canada. I'm very happy to be here with all of you today to mark this special occasion. The renewal of the Humanitarian Workforce Program is important, not just as a funding decision, but as a signal of how seriously we take preparedness in this country. It's also a signal of how seriously this government takes its responsibility to Canadians, and I applaud the government for this important investment into Canada's humanitarian infrastructure. In disaster response, outcomes are rarely determined in the moment of crisis. They're shaped far in advance by ensuring that people are trained, that organizations can work together effectively, and that there's a system in place that can operate under pressure. That's exactly what this program supports. At Team Rubicon Canada, like other NGOs here today, we mobilize volunteers with significant skills and experience directly relevant to emergency management. Their willingness to serve is consistent. What determines their impact is the structure around them, the ability to coordinate, to integrate with partners, and to sustain operations in a way that best serves communities. This program strengthens that capacity. It allows organizations to move from being well-intentioned to being truly effective at scale. That distinction is becoming more and more important. The operating environment is more complex, disasters are more frequent, and the demand on both systems and people continues to grow. From our perspective, this investment contributes directly to a more reliable, more effective national response capability. Thank you sincerely to Public Safety Canada, to Minister Olszewski, to Parliamentary Secretary Housefather, and to the Government of Canada for this continued partnership. Thank you for placing your confidence in Team Rubicon Canada and in the other NGOs here today. Merci beaucoup.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your remarks. We'll now move to any questions that we have in the room. And if anybody is joining us on Zoom and has questions, please raise your hand. We'll start with Max Paris from the CBC.
Hi, Minister Olszewski. I just wanted to ask you about the flood hazard identification and mapping program. Is there more the Canadian government can be doing on flood mapping to help Canadians?
So at the present time, we've been working on flood mapping. I should go back. We've been working on flood mapping for the last number of years. And last week I made an announcement that the technological part of the flood portal, the National Flood Portal, is now open. And so you can go on the public safety website and see that there is a flood mapping portal there. The next step will be for provinces and territories to indicate whether or not they want to opt into the flood mapping program, because we respect the jurisdiction of provinces and territories. And, we're hoping that the uptake will be good, but I can tell you that, as I say, the portal's up, and I actually had a chance to witness a demonstration of it, and I think it's an incredible tool. It's very easy to use. A person anywhere in the country can just type their address in and find out what the level of flood risk is to their property. And then there's a link to some steps that homeowners can take to safeguard, to mitigate their properties.
And just as a follow, so this year is supposedly supposed to be a super El Nino year, which generally during El Ninos suggests that the Western Canada is going to be considerably drier than normal. That when in a dry environment, you're generally looking at a lot bigger wildfires. What are you guys doing to prepare for the possibility of a big wildfire season out in Western Canada?
So our department monitors and has data available to it on an ongoing basis that helps us predict what the wildfire season will look like. And so to prepare, some of the things we've already done are our department officials have been in touch with provinces and territories with their equivalent officials, shared the outlook for this wildfire season, had many discussions about preparedness. In addition, last week I had a meeting with my counterparts in the provinces and territories all across the country for the same purpose, to talk about how we can better prepare and be ready for the wildfire season. We've done a number of things at the federal level in Budget 2025, and of course one of them is to fund and the leasing of water bombers so that we can, when there are jurisdictions that are over capacity, that we'll have water bombers available to assist them. And then, of course, today's announcement is a fundamentally important part of how we respond to wildfires as well. What happens is that wildfires are dealt with initially on a local level, and when municipalities, towns, villages, when they're unable to handle matters, then the province will step in. The federal government's role is really as the final partner when all other systems have been overwhelmed. And a province can make a request. It's called a formal request for assistance, and they can ask the federal government for help. And so, what we do is primarily provide, I'm going to call it surge capacity, so that when there are jurisdictions that are overwhelmed, we have the humanitarian workforce, the individuals that you see on the stage today and their organizations. We have water bombers and a number of other different kinds of support that we're able to provide when a province requests the same. So I hope that answers the question.
Sure. Is there anybody else behind you there who might want to offer a comment on that?
I think when we're looking at a wildfire season from our perspective as well, there's one containing the event, and the minister's talking about the bombers and the firefighters and so on. We never know if a big fire event will impact communities, and I think that's the side where we come in with our partners. But as the minister said, so we're looking at our last season where we were, the capacity was really stretched in terms of the impact in Indigenous communities. So we've spent a lot of time reaching out, working with, and how do we increase the preparedness locally, our agreements with and understanding with the province in terms of the capacity there where they could occur. And of course, as the minister said, this funding helps as well in the surge. So it's relooking at increasing capacity locally, provincially, and again, our strengthening of that response. So we're going to be following closely. You never know in a season, will the fire season impact individuals and communities and require evacuation? So we're on standby for that.
Okay, perfect. Minister, I might ask you a question as well, just on a different topic. As a representative from Alberta, I just was wondering if you've heard from any of your constituents right now about their concerns of having any information leaked by Elections Alberta, with all those addresses being leaked. I'm just wondering if you have a response or any comment on that.
So what's happened in Alberta with respect to the release of the electors list? It's obviously incredibly serious and very unfortunate. And I know that the Prime Minister has made a statement with respect to that. I believe he made that last night. And of course, our government views this very seriously as well. It's my understanding that the RCMP are doing an investigation and that Elections Alberta will be doing the same, and will be monitoring the situation to see what the results of those investigations are. Thank you.
Thank you. We do not have any questions on Zoom. I will turn it back to Max if you have any additional questions.
No, not really.
But that's okay. With that, we can conclude this press conference. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Can I just add a comment? I want to thank the media for being here today, because this is all about making sure that Canadians are prepared, and you can help us be a voice. You can help us tell Canadians how important it is to make sure that their properties are fire safe, that they have emergency kits, etc. So really, really appreciate your attendance this morning. Thank you.